The two German soldiers dodged their way through the column of drab artillery vehicles that trundled along the Place de la Concorde. They did not slacken their pace as they climbed the short flight of steps at the Museum Jeu de Paume, a heavily fortified building on the banks of the Seine. The younger of the pair, but a military grade higher, Ronan Cole, had been close friends with his companion Karl de Lich long before they were paired together and put to work as part of a hand-picked unit tasked with the removal of hundreds of precious works of art from locations that covered more than 4 countries. They had both been Hitler Youth. Each had followed their father's footsteps into the party, and after meeting during basic training at the military academy in Dresden, had become inseparable as they progressed through officer training. They saluted the sentry guarding the entrance, and the double doors opened as if by their own volition. A passageway stretched before them, red carpeted, flanked by 2 Roman statues, and dimly lit by tall windows on either side. Beneath the gloomy ceiling of the room that had once been a tennis court for the 17th century nobility lay rows and rows of gold-framed oil paintings, marble sculptures, and tapestries leaning against each other in the thick shadows. The place was deserted, but the air itself seemed to vibrate with the dusky colours of the paintings. Ronan took quick steps and glanced behind at Karl, whose spectacles glinted as his head swivelled left and right. His companion wore an expression of amazement, wonder, and pride. Ronan could almost smell the power and opulence in the surroundings. It was a long way from the heavy fighting they'd both survived in Yugoslavia, Albania, and Greece. That guerrilla war still raged, and each had been lucky to come through it unscathed, and even luckier to have been reassigned to the newly formed Reichsleiter Rosenberg Institute for the Occupied Territories, or the ERR as it was more commonly known. Occupied Paris had its dangers, but it was like a holiday camp compared to what they'd been through in the last 3 years. This morning their orders were to attend a briefing with their immediate superior, Bruno Lohse, who reported directly to Hermann Göring. Bruno Lohse was not a man to be trifled with. He was an art dealer, but also a Nazi, who had risen quickly through the party. And if he had a sense of humour, he kept it as well hidden as the treasures the Jewish population had squirreled away. Today, Ronan and Cole could hear almost every word he was shouting at the poor unfortunates currently in his office from outside in the corridor, despite the thick oak doors. He was in an even worse mood than normal. The Parisian Jews were not making it easy for him to do his job. Lohse held daily gatherings with the heads of his various units of the ERR from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the offices he'd sequestered in the Museum Jeu de Paume. Waiting in that corridor was akin to waiting to see your dentist, only minus the fun and the anaesthetic.